like to watch is one from when I first set up the business, and I set it up as Willows and Daisies. I used to have a closed Facebook group. It gave me a place where I could be vulnerable and share things and practice talking on camera, because I hadn't done lives and that kind of thing before, and so it was really daunting for me to actually speak on camera, talking into the void, not having somebody to respond to. There was a lot of insecurities, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety before I used to go on videos. I don't experience that anymore, and one of the reasons is because I did do these videos in my Facebook group. I did do lives every week. I practiced and I got better. I overcame a lot of my fears and insecurities and a lot of my visibility blocks. It's why I've got the business that I have today. But these videos are back from when it started. This surpassed version of me who was sharing what she wanted to share, the message that was on her heart that she still didn't feel worthy of sharing publicly. So, if you do hear any mention of Facebook groups or Willows and Daisies, the Facebook group doesn't exist anymore, and Willows and Daisies has been rebranded and is now Louise Anne. I hope you enjoy the videos, and remember, wherever you are on your healing journey, honour and respect the past versions of yourself, because they got you to where you are now. Don't criticise them for not doing better, knowing more. They were doing the best that they could at that point, the same way that you are now. And the things that they went through and the battles they fought and won are one of the reasons that you are where you are now. So don't be too critical of past versions of yourself. Instead, honour and respect them for what they did. Take care and stay awesome. Enjoy the video. Good evening, darlings, and I'm sorry that this video is slightly late. Getting the kids to bed tonight has just proved slightly more problematic than usual. But there's been a lot of changes and you know, shifts and stuff, so we're still finding our feet with actually getting everything into order, and you know, so at the moment it's organised chaos. But sleep, they're all in bed. Whether or not they're asleep, I don't think so, but they're all in bed. So we'll see how long I get through this before I get interrupted. But yes. So anybody that doesn't know who I am Louise Anne. I am the founder of Willows and Daisies, and I'm an abuse recovery coach. So domestic abuse recovery coach. I help women who have experienced domestic abuse to reconnect with themselves and enable themselves to feel the love, the affection, and the self-belief and everything else that got taken away from them during the abusive relationship. Tonight I had already planned on speaking about anxiety, and then when I was laid down trying to get Willow to sleep, I started to feel anxious, because I knew that I needed to come and do my live, and the time was ticking by and she wasn't going to sleep, and you start getting those feelings, the tightening in the chest, and you know, then your mouth starts going dry and you start to get the panicking thoughts, kind of like, oh my god, what am I going to do, and people are relying on me, or people are expecting things of me and I'm not doing what I am supposed to be doing, and you start feeling. But I stopped the cycle. I was like, okay, I'm completely in control. So I posted to the page and I said that the live is going to be slightly late, and that is it. And anxiety shows up in our lives multiple different ways, and it represents itself in different ways for different people. So some people, when they get anxious, they start panicking and doing lots, but not really achieving anything because they busy themselves trying to be everything. And other people shut down. So anxiety is very, very different for different people. And I don't think you can ever judge what somebody else is feeling based on the way that they are acting, because you are not within their body, and so you don't know if what they are processing are feelings that you would process differently. So it's like, it's that whole thing that when you get too angry, you cry, and people associate that, they think you're upset, and it's like, no, I am so angry that I'm crying. And it's that whole misconception that emotions can only be shown in particular ways. Well, anxiety can actually manifest itself in different ways for different people, and none of it is wrong, but all of it needs to be overcome in one way, or you need to find coping mechanisms or things that you can do to alleviate the anxiety. So I was going to talk about how anxiety shows up in relationships, but I think what I want to talk about instead is anxiety and the control that you have over it, and to me, what anxiety is, and how it has shown up in my life. And then if anything resonates with you, then hopefully you'll know that you're not alone. If it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't mean that what you have experienced wasn't anxiety, or it doesn't discredit what you have experienced. It is just me talking about how it felt for me. So it's like tonight I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, a lot of expectations that I thought other people had of me. And that's been something that has happened multiple times in my life, where I have created anxiety within myself and within my own life because I have put other people's perceptions of me as part of as my responsibility. But I have also made assumptions about their perceptions of me. So instead of doing things that were right for me or the way that I wanted to do things, I have taken it as my responsibility to show up or do things because I believe that they want me to. Now, this is a perception that can be completely wrong. Other people may not expect me to do as much as I do, or may not expect me to show up the way that I show up. But I have that perception that I have to do these things, and so I transfer that, and I believe that they have that perception too, which may be wrong. I think you need to realize that if you are doing that, then you need to step back and allow yourself the freedom of saying, okay, unless somebody directly asks me to do something, or unless somebody actually shows up and tells me that, yes, this is what I want you to do, then it is not your place to assume that they want you to do it, because you might be taking on board a lot more pressure and a lot more responsibility that nobody else is expecting you to do. So you create anxiety for yourself by putting additional pressure on yourself. And that can happen in multiple different relationships. It can happen with friendships. It can happen in your partnership, you're with your spouse. It can happen in work relationships. It can happen in all different aspects where you feel like you have to show up a particular way. But that is your perception. It is your view. And you don't know what their view is unless you ask them. So one of the ways that you can actually overcome, you can either take back control and say, okay, well, this isn't working for me. I can't keep showing up like this. I can't keep doing everything that I'm doing because it is causing me anxiety and it's causing me stress. So you can either step back and just kind of like relinquish and say, look, I'm not going to do this anymore unless you directly ask me. I'm not going to keep doing it. Or you can actually ask them and ask for an honest opinion and say, look, do you want me to keep doing this? Because it's causing a lot of stress for me. And if it's not something that's that important to you, I'd rather just leave it because I want to be able to focus on other things. And most of the times you find out that actually there's a lot of things that you can take off your plate that never needed to be there in the first place. You've taken on a lot of roles that you didn't need to do. And I think the other thing is you need to learn to be kind to yourself. So a lot of insecurities can cause us to try and show up and be everything to everybody and try and like put on this big show of look at everything that I'm doing. And a lot of it can come from an insecurity that if I don't do all of this, then they're going to see that I'm not as good. Or if I don't do all of this, they're going to see that I'm not good enough, or that I'm not worthy or that I don't deserve this. So it can actually be a lot of insecurities that cause you to take on the additional work that other people aren't that fussed about you doing, but you just feel like you have to do. So anxiety can show up in multiple different ways for people. It can come from us taking on board things that nobody else is expecting us to do, and nobody is, putting that pressure on us, but we put it on ourselves. And us putting that pressure on ourselves can come from a place of not feeling good enough and not feel worthy. So we try to prove, not only to other people, but we try to prove to ourselves that, yes, I am good enough. Yes, I am worthy. Yes, I do deserve this because look at all the stuff that I do. But you can't overcome the limiting belief of not good enough and not lovable and not worthy by giving yourself anxiety. It becomes a catch-22. The more pressure you put on yourself, the more stress you feel, and the more anxiety you feel, so the more things that you're not going to be able to do to your full capabilities. And when you do start making mistakes and when you do start messing up, then suddenly you've got that confirmation that you're not good enough and you're not worthy. And so then you try and put more pressure on yourself and more work on yourself to try and combat it. And it becomes a very, very difficult cycle and a very toxic one to get caught up in. You need to break the cycle. And that comes from having the very difficult conversation with yourself that you have created this situation for yourself and that you are the one that is in control of getting out of this situation. Anxiety isn't something that is given to us from the external world. It is the way that we are coping within our own internal world. And so the way that you actually overcome it and the way that you deal with anxiety isn't by external measures. It is about doing the inner work and creating the freedom to only take on what is expected of you, also creating boundaries and saying no to things that are actually going to put you in the position where you feel pressurized and stressed again. So that is something that came up for me today. So when I was trying to get Willow to sleep and I was panicking and feeling stressed and starting to feel anxious about the way that I had to show up here and the fact that I was going to be late, and the fact that Willow wasn't going to sleep and Eliza was still talking about the teddy that she wanted and all of that stuff, the fact that that hadn't gone to plan. And then I was putting additional pressures on myself from other places. It is because I have felt unworthy in the past. And so I put a lot of pressure on myself from a lot of places on how I feel other people want me to show up. But having done lots of work, I know that it is completely within my power to actually overcome or sort out the sources of anxiety. Now, I couldn't push and force the kids to go to bed any quicker or force them to go to sleep any quicker. So I had something else that I could control. And so I actually posted and said that the live was going to be late. There you go. I relieved the anxiety that I was feeling because I gave myself some breathing space. Something that was on my plate that I couldn't manage at that time, I relinquished control and I said, okay, I can't do this right now. And having the freedom to do that in different parts of your life is essential, because if you keep taking on board more and more things, trying to feel good enough and trying to fill that hole in yourself that says you're not worthy, then you are going to burn out. You are going to end up extremely stressed and very anxious and worried about all the things that you actually have to do and have to achieve. And it is not a life that anybody should be living. So if you do have anxiety, if you are suffering, and you do want to reach out and speak to me, then please feel free to do so. As I said, I have stepped aside from the role that I was doing, Empowerment and Confidence Life Coach, and I am now specialising in working with women who have experienced domestic abuse. That comes from my experience, my personal experience, everything that I've learned, everything that I've gone through. If you do know anybody that has experienced domestic abuse, either physical, verbal, emotional, financial and sexual, any form of domestic abuse. If you know somebody that has experienced it, if you know a woman who has gone through it, then please tell her to reach out to me. There's a lot of traumas that we don't realise we need to overcome. So, and if there is anybody else that does want to reach out to me, you can always find me over on my page, Willows and Daisies, or my contact details are on my page on my website. So that is it for tonight. I am going to go and count how many of the children have actually gone to sleep and crack on and do some work, because I have been homeschooling today, so I haven't done as much as I wanted to do, and I have a lot of things that I want to get down on paper, because I have a lot of ideas buzzing in my head. So that is all. If you do want to reach out to me, please do so, and if you believe that there is anybody that could do with my help, please send them my details. Take care, darlings. Night night for now. Thank you so much for taking the time and watching the video. I hope you found it informative and you enjoyed it. I am going to be posting the rest of the videos that were recorded in my Facebook group and the lives and stuff, and so they're all going to be populated here as well. So please, if you enjoyed that, remember to click the subscribe and the notifications so that you actually get told when they are going to be or when they're live. If you have any comments or feedback, please feel free to leave it below, except if it is nasty, rude or hurtful, in which case don't. I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, enjoy yourselves, and stay awesome.